go ahead and get started, and folks will just trickle in as they're able to join, and that's all right. So again, my name is Ann Kilby. I'm the Director of MBA Admissions and Operations here at Georgetown McDonough. Before we keep moving forward, just a quick sound check. Can someone chat in the chat box that you can hear me? Perfect. Thank you. That's awesome. Great. Good. Thanks, everyone. I'm so happy that you're here because what it symbolizes to me is that you guys are looking forward to hearing about what you can do to move forward, how you can join us here at Georgetown. It shows us that you're excited and you're determined to join. So those are all, that's music to our ears as admissions officers at the university. So in terms of the purpose of this webinar, several points we're going to cover today. One, you've received that waitlist notification. You've had a little bit of time to reflect on that, and you're thinking, okay, what now? What next? So I'm going to talk through, I'm going to explain about the holistic review process. So what it was that got you to this point, so you can better understand where we're coming from. And then also I'm going to provide you with some coaching on how to approach strengthening your candidacy. So how to personalize this approach so that you can increase the likelihood of an acceptance at Georgetown. Okay. Let's see. Here we are. Okay, so in terms of the agenda, I just gave you a bit of a run through. So this is just reiterating what I stated. So we're going to start by going through the holistic review process, which led to the determination of you being on the wait list. Second, I'm going to share about how to apply our assessment measures to your candidacy. Third, we're going to explore how to form an action plan of next steps towards a hopeful admit decision. And lastly, a reminder of our contact details, because we are here to support you. I want to share those contact details so that you know how to get in touch with us for any questions or requests for assistance. And just so you all know, I am planning to leave time for Q&A at the end, so I'm looking forward to that. Okay, demystifying the review process, the holistic approach. So I'm pulling back the curtain here. I'm showing you what is it like to be an admissions committee discussion. So we are looking at criteria in two main buckets, the quantitative and the qualitative. The high level, so up in the clouds, the purpose of our collection of this information collection is so that we can better understand your professional achievements, your academic acumen, your personal character, so that we can best predict your academic success in our program and whether or not you would be a good fit from a cultural perspective, from a career fit perspective. So that's the purpose of our gathering all of this information and trying to get to know you better. One indicator should not make or break you. Given it is a holistic review, we are looking across all of these areas and making our holistic assessment. They should be pretty self-explanatory, but just to explain a few that might need a little bit more clarification. So the academic history, that is your undergraduate performance, so your undergraduate GPA. Specifically, we're looking at your transcript and your coursework. We're looking for trends, especially coursework that is relevant to the MBA program. Your test scores, we accept the GRE or GMAT, we weight them evenly. And then for the English test, we also accept the TOEFL or the IELTS, and we weight those evenly. Your years of work experience, so the raw number of years of work experience. You guys know we require a letter of recommendation. We allow up to 2. So that tells us a lot about your character and your current capabilities. the quality of your work experience. So that is the progression of your work experience. Have you found a niche? Have you worked across different industries? Have you had cross-cultural relations? Have you developed leadership or management skills? All of these indicators help us better understand what you can contribute to the classroom and what you'll be able to apply back to your situation too. Personal essays, we've got two. We have the written essay, and we also have the video essay, which I know people tend to either love or hate. I personally love it. The evaluative interview. So the interview is something that you must be invited for, and that is a requirement of being admitted to the program, is to have been interviewed. Okay. So how to apply this holistic review to you? How can you best determine the holistic review as it relates to your candidacy? So now that you've had a little bit of time to receive that decision, I'm sure you've thought back to the whole admissions process and you've broken down your application to say, why might I be on the wait list? And that's exactly the kind of introspection that we encourage. We encourage you to look at the class profile. It's available on our website, so it's publicly available online, and start to compare yourself and say, well, what areas of my candidacy are more competitive? What areas are less competitive? Hopefully, if there is an indicator that falls below our range or our average, there's another indicator that is higher. So that plays into the holistic review and overcompensation, giving us more confidence, etc. So that's step number one, is making that comparison so that you can best determine, you can identify where are the areas that might be less competitive. Also being self-reflective too, and thinking, maybe what else could I have better explained, or was there anything else that I maybe should have included? Did I remember to list that certificate that I did, or that course that I took, or could I have talked more about that leadership experience? Or, it gives you a chance to really think back. Because ultimately, we are looking for a compelling story. We want to hear from you in an authentic way. It's helpful if it's memorable, given the number of applications we're reviewing. So these are all things to consider as you're thinking back about you and your candidacy. And specifically, there are areas that are most common, where folks realize that they have opportunity to improve. There are some things that are out of your control. Your performance at undergraduate was in the past, but what might be an opportunity to improve is maybe you provide us a more thorough explanation about what happened in undergraduate. What was the circumstance? What else was going on in your life that might have led to that academic performance? And how might the MBA experience be different for you? So that's an example of something that's not in your control, but yet there is an opportunity to improve. So that's the academic history. Professional background. So perhaps your scope of work has changed since your original application. Perhaps you received a promotion. These are definitely things that we want to hear from you, because that means that we are not assessing you on your current profile. We're assessing you still on your original application data. Test scores. This is honestly the most common area for improvement that we see, the GMAT and the GRE. And just to help you guys better understand, we recognize that individuals have different test-taking ability, different styles, different preferences. But you all also realize that we're a global program, and we are so proud of that. So we are getting applications from folks across the globe, different types of degrees from different types of schools, a variety of coursework. And so we need an indicator that helps to standardize our review, hence the standardized test. Not to say it's perfect, but it does allow us a standardized review. So that's the purpose of the GMAT, the GRE, as well as the TOEFL and the IELTS. These are all indicators about your future success in the program. Academically and from the English side of things, will you have confidence? Will you be able to contribute? Will you work well with your teammates? Because is your English sufficient? We want you to be successful. Same with the GMAT and GRE. We certainly don't want to admit folks that we don't feel as if are equipped to be successful. We only want to admit folks who are prepared to move forward. So in terms of where you might identify, wow, that has changed in my candidacy, or actually I'm not as competitive in the GMAT as I thought, so maybe I should relook at taking that. Or maybe on the GMAT, it's just the quantitative section. So maybe you say, well, my options are I could retake the GMAT, switch out one indicator for the same indicator, or maybe I want to take specific coursework to hone in just on that quantitative section. The first course you take here at McDonough is accounting. So maybe you want to start with an accounting class. And I should have prefaced this conversation by saying, we hope you are able to put forward the best application possible, the strongest application possible. That can only increase your chances of admit. Of course, admit is not guaranteed, even if you take these extra efforts. Though if you do not take these extra efforts, we will continue to apply the same criteria of assessment. So it's not a guarantee, but you're increasing your likelihood. So once you have gone through this self-assessment process, you've been reflective, you've pinpointed where in your application it might be less competitive. That's when you start to put together your action plan. So for your action plan, I just gave you some examples. Maybe you retake a test, or maybe you said, you know what, I've taken the GMAT several times, not improving, I'm going to switch to the GRE, or vice versa. Great. Or you might go the specific course route. That's also an option for you. Or you might better explain something to us, like your undergraduate performance. These are all possibilities for you to consider. Only you know yourself best, and only you know what action plan is most feasible, is most attractive, and what you're really most willing to do. So once you form that action plan, next steps for you. Submit your waitlist essay. That is a formal mechanism for you to update us about what your self-assessment is and what your action plan will be. It is 300 words maximum for your count, so you do have to be relatively concise. But it helps us know you're still interested. You want to be here. And these are ways that you are hoping to get here in terms of strengthening your candidacy. After you submit that waitlist essay, or in addition, you can always email us, georgetownmba@georgetown.edu. So let's say that in your action plan, you should say, I'm going to take this statistics course through this provider, whomever it may be, on this date, or I'm going to take the GRE on this date, or anything that we may need to be looking out for. Then what you'll do is you'll send us an email once that course is completed, once you have those new test scores, anything that you need to update us on, please send it to us by email, and that will be added to your application file so that the admissions committee can have the updated information in our holistic review. Okay. Oh, and in terms of timeline, actually, that's what we're getting to now. I'm sure you're thinking, okay, I think I should retake the GRE, but when do I need to take it by? And is that possible for me? So let's talk through that a bit more. So once we receive updated materials from you, we will automatically include that in our consideration. The next decision notification date is May 15th. That's round 3 decision notification date. So on that day, you'll receive an updated letter from us. It may be you're still on the wait list, or it may be a final decision of admit or deny. So what I would recommend to you all is if you want to influence the round 3 decision notification, we at least need to know your action plan. We need to know what to expect from you. So I would say at minimum, send us your waitlist essay, send us any associated emails by the end of this month. Ideally, if you could send us not only your action plan, but that plan being executed, that would be ideal, though I don't know, depending on what you decide to do for your next steps, if that's feasible or not. We still have round 4. So round 4, the decision notification date is June 1. So we are going to continue assessing those on our wait list to render final decisions by that date. So there's still opportunity. I do want to point out another consideration for our international students. So with the international students, you do have to go through the student visa process. So the sooner you get an admit from us, the more time you can allow for that process. So I do want to give that consideration to those folks as well. Honestly, the sooner anyone moves forward, the sooner your potential of receiving an updated decision from us. However, these are big steps. It needs to be done. They need to be done thoughtfully and strategically and intentionally. So by no means am I suggesting you rush through the process, but you need to be proactive in your planning. And lastly, our contact details. So this is the email that I referenced before. I'm sure you all know it, but just a reminder. So email us with anything to support your waitlist essay. Certainly any updates that are occurring in your application. Call us if there's something that you want to talk through. And visit our website. That's where you're going to find that cohort profile to compare. So that's going to probably be your starting point in this whole exercise. And then, of course, we're located in the Rafiq Hariri building, Georgetown McDonough, and Suite 390 is the admissions office. And you're welcome to walk in. We have an admissions officer on call daily. So bottom line is we're here to support you. We would love to admit you. We just need you to get there. With that, I'm going to stop my share and start going through some questions. We're here until 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. So we have about 40 minutes, and I'll try to get through as much as I can. Okay, let's see. Great. So if you all have any questions, what I would request is that you put them in the chat box, and I'll read through them and respond to them out loud so that all can benefit from the discussion. Haha, actually there is a Q&A box, even more clever. Great. So, okay. First question is this is a very helpful one for the group. Syed says, what is your average GRE score for the MBA? You're right that our cohort profile lists the GMAT range. And so what I would encourage you to do, there is a GMAC converter tool, GMAC. It is the only industry tool currently available. It is not perfect, I'll say that, but it does translate your GRE to the GMAT. It should give you a rough idea of where you stand. So I would encourage you to try out that tool and plug in your own GRE score. Okay. So Ravi asked about the decision notification date. Yes, it is May 15th for round 3. We actually release decisions all on that day. It's a big notification distribution. So there is not an opportunity for you to hear earlier. We release all decisions on the same day. Okay. Laura from the consortium. So the consortium timeline is the same for all applicants. So you will also find out from us May 15th as the next iteration what your updated decision will be. Gabriella, if you've already been interviewed, will you be interviewed again? Not necessarily. As I mentioned, the interview is a requirement as part of admission. However, with that being said, certainly if in the admissions committee's discussion, once we have your interview and we are discussing you and the entirety of your candidacy, of your profile, if there's anything that is left, any hesitation or lingering questions, anything we feel like we need to still clarify with you, we will certainly reach out to you, whether that's a phone call or an email. It won't be designated as a formal interview again, but feel rest assured that we will reach out to you as we need to. But you shouldn't expect another formal interview, no. Saurabh, till when do we have to submit our waitlist essay? So I would encourage you to submit it, if possible, by the end of this month, if you are hoping to influence the round 3 decision notification date of May 15th. At minimum, in that waitlist essay, it would be great to hear your self-assessment as well as your action plan. In an ideal world, you would already be able to give us updates on your candidacy, like I received this job promotion or I took this course, but at minimum, tell us what you plan to do so we can have appropriate expectations. Amar, what kind of coursework do you recommend to showcase quant ability? So the first course that you're taking in the MBA program is accounting. So I always tell folks, regardless if you're on the wait list, if you're just trying to better equip yourself to be successful in the program, it could not hurt to do self-study or take a course in accounting. Given that all depends on your background and your experience in accounting. It might not be necessary for you. If it's redundant, then we need to think about other courses. But given that it's the first hitter, the first hard hitter in our program, that's the course that I typically recommend. However, another helpful tool or area of research for you could be pulling up the MBA curriculum itself, which is available on our website, and looking through the curriculum, looking through the quantitative courses, seeing which ones you have more or less experience with, because then you're kind of killing 2 birds, right? And that you're taking very relevant coursework to prepare yourself for that class in the MBA program, but you're also showing us your quantitative ability. Jacob, the location of the cohort profile. So if you go to our website, msb.georgetown.edu, the top right search bar, you can type in cohort profile, and that should pull up for you. Instead of having to click through multiple pages, just search for it is what I would do. Ryan, what if I was admitted to another program and need to make a decision prior to the May 15th decision? Yeah, that's a good question. Well, first of all, congratulations on being admitted to another program. That's great. It's always good to have options. What I would encourage you to do is reach out to that program that you were admitted to and ask them if they would give you a deposit extension. That is something that we commonly entertain at for our program. admissions offices are accustomed to hearing that request. Now, whether or not they accommodate you is up to them. But if you explain to them that you want to make an informed decision, you want to have all offers available, you're hopeful to receive an updated decision from McDonough on May 15th, I would hope that they would at least consider that. Okay. Shantanu, so since your application, you've grown, it sounds like, in many ways on the professional front. You're working towards your academic goals as well, helping society. Yes, these are all changes to your candidacy, especially since they've all occurred since your application. Those are things that we are not currently taking into consideration because we don't know about them. So definitely in your waitlist essay, list out those things because those affect your merit, those affect your acumen. So those definitely sound like things that you should share with us. Vichy, is there a possible limitation to the internship opportunities for round 3 applicants due to the late entry in the program? Please let me know if there is such probability. That's an interesting question. Well, keep in mind, Vichy, we also have round 4 where we are continuing to admit students. I know for internationals, you know, that you all do need to go through the student visa process, and that does take time. Always a great resource for you is the Georgetown Office of Global Services. Their contact details are easily found on their website, Office of Global Services. You can see individual people, you can see their associated contact details, you can see their whole office email. And so feel free to use them as a resource to better understand next steps as an international student. But as it relates to your internship possibility with the career office, so I'm assuming we're talking about the full-time program. So the summer between first and second year, you have your required internship. I'll tell you, this past year, 99% of our students who were seeking a summer internship got one. And people were admitted at all times of the year last year, all parts of the cycle. So I don't have a concern about your ability to achieve that summer internship. I think the first priority is the student visa process, which I think the Office of Global Services will be able to shed some light on. Okay, Matthew, if I submitted only one letter of recommendation, can I submit an additional letter with a waitlist essay? Yeah, we get this question a lot. So while yes, we would gladly take a letter of recommendation and review that, what I encourage folks to spend their time on, where I would encourage you to direct your focus, would be more so on how to specifically strengthen the areas that are less competitive in your candidacy. It's hard. A letter of recommendation certainly helps us better understand you as a person. So looking beyond the paper, looking beyond the numbers, and helping us better understand your current capabilities. With that being said, those numbers still exist. So that's where if what's falling short on your application is a test score or a GPA, we need areas to overcompensate quantitatively and academically. So a letter of rec could, I guess, get to that, but not as fully as another academic indicator. Okay. Anurag, yes, the round 3 decisions go out on May 15th. It is not a rolling process till the 15th. It is one big day of decision notification. So Razak, with the student visa processing time, it also depends on yes, what country you're coming from, your consulate, that timing can really differ from country to country. And I by no means am the expert. Instead, I would truly refer you to our Office of Global Services and to speak with your consulate directly. We are trying our best to assess you fairly and consistently. So round 3, we are hopeful to admit as many people who meet our standards, especially for you all who are working to improve and strengthen and show that you want to be here. But we will also be continuing to review waitlist candidates for round 4. Shashank, yep, so for international students, same decision dates apply. There is not necessarily a priority. Oh, good. Good. I think I answered the recommendation letter question, Ashwarya, so I'm gonna keep going from there. Christopher, that's a great question. What percentage of waitlisted applicants were offered admission last year? You know, I don't know that statistic off the top of my head where it finally shook out. Things are moving throughout the whole process. I do not know that for you, and that is something I should know. So I will find that out, because also we have folks who choose not to confirm their spot on the wait list, who withdraw from the wait list, who decline from being on the wait list. But everyone ultimately does receive a final decision of admit or deny if they have not withdrawn. So I need to find that out. I apologize. Gustavo, there is no preference between GMAT or GRE. We weight them evenly. So they are different tests. People have different preferences. So whichever one you feel more comfortable in taking, whichever one you think you'll be more successful in, please go with that one. Okay, Ronald, this is a good question about if you're taking a course, but it doesn't actually end until the beginning of August. How do you keep us posted on in terms of your progress? I assume the course would have milestones. You know, you take tests or quizzes, or somehow it monitors your progress. So that you can always send us like screenshots, some way to verify the progress that you've made in that course. But I would also tell you that if you're trying to prove both your quantitative and verbal, that could be difficult to do in one course. That sounds like it might be worth considering retaking the GMAT or GRE if it's both sections that are less competitive. Otherwise, you might need to take multiple courses. There are a lot of great course providers out there. I'm not endorsing any of them, but Coursera, edX, MBA Math, I would say are probably the most common we see folks taking. And each of them has different durations. I think all of them are free unless you want to pay the add-on to get a certification. So there are a lot of great offerings out there. So Kaif, what if you have the GMAT plan on May 13th? Will that be considered before the May 15th notification? Ooh, that's tricky. So I can't guarantee anything, of course. So May 13th is a Sunday, May 15th is a Tuesday. That would be cutting it close. However, if you tell us your action plan, we'll have the expectation of when you plan to take the date. And of course, when we receive your score, if we are still crafting the class, we continue to craft the class up until the day before. We are constantly making changes because we want to make decisions based on accurate current information. So of course, send us your test once you have those scores available. I just can't guarantee. It depends on where we are in our decision-making process. Okay, to gender, recently received a professional award. You have emailed. So just to make sure the email that you use, Georgetown MBA at georgetown.edu. If so, any email you send and requesting it to be added to your application will be added. And whether or not to include those same details in the waitlist essay, it couldn't hurt to reiterate, to remind us. So I would rather you be redundant than assume otherwise, assume that, of course, we're going to take it into account. We have that correspondence in your application file, but it couldn't hurt to reiterate it. Jacob, if we got waitlisted and didn't receive an interview, can we assume that's a negative sign? It's not a negative sign. What it means is that there's still opportunity for you to be invited to interview, because in order to be admitted, you do have to be interviewed. So there is still opportunity for that. And so in order to be invited to interview, it means that you need to strengthen your candidacy to initiate that invitation. Oh, and Vichy asked the same question. Okay. Kyle, yes, to clarify, if you are admitted off the wait list, you would first need to be invited for an interview. That's why the sooner we have your information about your self-assessment, your action plan, any updates on your candidacy, the sooner we can assess you guys to determine to move you forward. So moving you forward, whether that is inviting you for an interview or you've already been admitted and considering you for a final decision. And the interviews, Sean said this will help answer your question as well, are invite only. So even if you request one, so they are invite only. Andrew, you'd like to visit campus? Awesome. We would love to welcome you here. So the ways in which you can visit campus, and if you haven't had the opportunity to do so, I really hope you all can, just because there's something to be said about immersing yourself in the Georgetown environment to better understand it and get a sense of what it would be like to be a student here. So there are a couple ways that you can go about doing this. On our website, in that search bar that is my best friend, you can type in events and get the full list of events that we have listed on campus. One that I personally recommend is called Experience Georgetown. That allows you to sit in on a class, be hosted by current students. We have daytime and evening sessions available. And so that is a great opportunity to come to campus. We also have admissions officers on call every day in the admissions office, so Monday through Friday during working hours, 9 to 5, where if you walk into the office and say, I want to speak to someone from admissions, please, then someone will be able to accommodate you. So that's also an option for you. Also, even though we're a private university, we're publicly accessible. So you're welcome to come in and walk around the building, get a sense of what it's like here. So I'd say one of those avenues, either one of the formal events, such as Experience Georgetown, being a walk-in and speaking with an admissions officer there, or doing an independent walkthrough yourself. Okay, Ravi, for the clarification on the waitlist essay, what are your growth areas? What does that mean? So growth areas typically means, so that would be the areas that you have self-identified as being less competitive. Those are areas that have opportunity for growth, so have opportunity to be strengthened. So certainly you're welcome to list your strengths to us to remind us of those. However, you wouldn't be on the wait list if you didn't have strengths. You know, if we didn't recognize those strengths, we would have moved you to deny. So there's definitely a reason why you're on the wait list from a positive standpoint as well. So it's more important, especially given that you do have a word count maximum, so you do have to be concise, is letting us know those areas for improvement. Miguel, it's hard to say, you know, your question about, is there a preference between someone retaking the GMAT, GRE, or taking extra online coursework? Because it's subjective. It depends on your situation and your candidacy and what might be most helpful for you. So what I would do, and when you're comparing yourself to the cohort profile, see, is it the entire GRE or GMAT where you might not be as competitive? Is it just one section? Are you very far off? These are all considerations when thinking about your action plan. We don't have a preference for, well, we hope everyone retakes the GRE. No, we want you to do what makes most sense for you. So Gabriella, with the GRE as opposed to the GMAT, so the GMAT score, I believe you receive the unofficial score pretty immediately after taking the exam. However, the GRE does have a little bit of a lag time. I think it takes about 2 weeks for the score to reach our office, your unofficial score. So you do need to take that into account when doing your planning. And so just a reminder that in terms of timeline, since round 3 decision notification is May 15th, at least send us your action plan, your self-assessment by the end of the month, this month. And if you want a new score to be reviewed as part of that decision making, ideally within the same month, but knowing that our decision notification is May 15th for round 3. We still have round 4. So submitting the waitlist essay. So that is through your portal, your application portal where you accepted your spot on the waitlist. When you submit that, it immediately gets added to your application. So that is an automatic thing. There's no manual component to it. And we receive a notification as the admissions committee so we will be incorporating that in your review. In terms of essay versus email, I mean, essay is the formal route. And so I would encourage you all to take advantage of the waitlist essay. We created it to capture this specific information from you all, but anything else that you need to share with us over email, just trust that that will also be added to your application. Oh, this is a great question, Ani. So you've already submitted the waitlist essay, but upon deeper reflection, it sounds like maybe there's more that you want to add. So we certainly don't want you to replace your original waitlist essay because that is valuable insight, I'm sure, that you shared with us originally. So instead, for that case, I would encourage you to send us an email. Send us an email saying, I already submitted the waitlist essay as per recommendation from Anne, or just, you know, as, you know, in moving forward, I don't want to replace that original essay. Instead, could you please add the following correspondence to my application? And you can list it there. And then how do you reflect? How do you show that you're taking online courses on the online platforms such as edX? Any way that they allow for verification. So if that's a screenshot, if you can print out a completion page and scan that to us, it depends on the provider what they allow you to do, but we will need some kind of verification of you taking the course. Of course, we abide by the honor code, but verification just provides that additional documentation. Syed, we talked about the interview process, so I'm going to skip over that question. I hope you've had your question answered. Okay. Yeah, so Vichy, what is the kind of coursework we'd recommend for verbal ability? I've already taken a course. Is an additional one required? It depends on what that course was. It depends on, again, your candidacy and what you know, since it's a holistic review, it's hard for me to say a one-size-fits-all scenario. There's not like a blanket or a magic bullet, a blanket solution. I don't know what a magic bullet. So it depends on your circumstance. So is it verbal on the GMAT or GRE? Is it verbal from an English language test? Google is a good friend of yours, or can be. So you can look up GMAT verbal coursework. That could be a possibility for you, or on one of these course providers, typing in GMAT verbal courses, something like that, or GRE, excuse me, either of those. So that could, some research might really help out there. I don't have a one size verbal ability course to offer. So interview invites, Michael, the timing for those, we invite folks up until the day before decision notification. So for example, round one, I interviewed someone the day before decision notification who I personally think was the strongest applicant. We admitted that round. So by no means does the timing indicate your strength as a candidate. Liana, I'm going to skip over your question. I think I've answered it. Interviews are invite only. Yeah, Anurag, so if you've been waitlisted without an interview, the process, once we receive updated information from you and choose to, if we would like to move you forward, then the next step for you would be invite to interview. The next step for those who have been interviewed would be reviewing them for a final decision. Regardless, that interview is required. Isaac, is June 1st the final notification deadline? That is our round 4 decision notification deadline. So it is our intent to have that as the final notification deadline. Okay. Simmer, in terms of the letter of recommendation, I think I already answered that. Whether or not it would be helpful. It depends on your situation, but and what is the less competitive indicator or indicators on your candidacy. So the letter of recommendation is a great indicator in your initial application. I find it to be less helpful for the waitlist reconsideration. Hi, Colin. What advice would you give an applicant who's already provided? And right. So I hope I responded to this already. If you've already submitted your waitlist essay, send us an update email instead. We want to hear from you if there's something to be shared. Rachel, I think that's the same question. Priyanka, I believe I answered that already. Andrew, same with letter of recommendation. It's good you guys are all on the same page. You're all thinking through the same things. Shantanu. Yep, so we talked about the invite for interview. This is a different question. Sammy, is post-MBA job placement a key consideration for AdCom while making admissions decisions? So as you know, in the application, we do ask you what are your short-term and long-term career goals. And one of the reasons why we ask that is we want to know what you're hoping to achieve professionally. So how are you hoping to apply the MBA program to get you to that next stage in your career, whether it's to switch careers, to pivot, to find new direction, to do something entrepreneurial. We want to have that better understanding because it helps us to assess your fit. We know our bench strengths here at Georgetown. We know what areas we pride ourselves most on in terms of research and faculty and career placement as well. And I will tell you that not only is the admissions committee reviewing your application, but every person that we would like to admit in the program, the career office also reviews. So what I mean by that is we need to ensure that what you hope to achieve is attainable. So if you're hoping to completely switch directions, that could be great. We just want to make sure that we feel as if we can properly equip you to meet that goal. Okay, Kwame, I think I answered about the timeline about interviews up until the day before decision notification for round 3. That would be up until May 14th. Thanks for attending, Laura. Good luck at your meeting. Akshay, this is a great question we haven't talked about yet. Merit-based scholarships. So when you receive your final decision with us, if it is an admit, we review all admitted applicants for merit-based scholarships. So you will actually find out in your admittance letter if you have been offered a merit-based scholarship from our office. So that means the stronger your merit, the better your chances for receiving a scholarship, since the basis of our consideration for the scholarships is merit-based rather than need-based. So yes, if you get admitted to the program, you will also be reviewed for scholarship. Shashank, transfer. So we do not currently take transfer credits from other MBA programs or other master's degree programs. So for you, if you are here in the US as a student and you're hoping to become a student at Georgetown, you would need to be admitted here. So you would need to apply and be admitted here. That is the process. Okay, yes, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear in responding to your question the first time. So how long before the notification deadline can we give the GMAT for that attempt to be taken into consideration? Well, it's hard for me to give you an exact date because we are assessing candidates continuously with the May 15th decision notification date in mind. So certainly within the month of May, you can assume we have our heads down in crafting the class and making scholarship decisions. That's not to say we're not still inviting folks to interview and reviewing the wait list. That is certainly part of that decision-making process. But that is pretty much our main focus within the month of May, leading up to that May 15th deadline is the decision-making period. So while I can't give you a hard date, I can tell you at minimum, your action plan, your self-assessment should come to us by the end of the month. There's really no reason to wait unless you need more time to reflect. And then an updated score, the sooner the better. I can't really give you a date. We will try to incorporate it when you send it to us. It depends on where we are with crafting the class. I'm sorry, that's vague. I wish I could be more specific. Shanza, what about a letter of support from a current student? Certainly, we have the Refer a Hoya process where an alumni or a student can refer you. That will certainly be taken into account. That is a change in your academic profile, or not your academic profile, your application profile. Sammy, so if you were interviewed for a previous year, so in a different cycle, but you haven't been interviewed this year, we would not carry over that previous interview. Instead, we would need to re-request an interview from you, just because I'm sure some things have changed between this year and last year for you. So we want to get to know you more in your current status. So that means that as a next step for you, if we want to move you forward, it would be to invite you to interview. I'm glad to hear that we are your first choice. We always love hearing that. So another program is asking you to deposit and also give you a great scholarship. Well, congratulations. That is wonderful. So I would suggest, I don't think this was your question, but just a reminder that I would suggest if you have a competing offer with an earlier decision than us, are required for you to make your deposit earlier than you expect to receive our decision, I would have a conversation with them and requesting an extension, and I would hope they would entertain that. And then, yes, for scholarships, if you are admitted, you are considered for scholarship. Jong, yeah, you're right. What if the test results are bad? would it be necessary to report it? So we do review any scores that are reported to us within the past 5 years. We do, as most schools do, take the highest score that you have presented to us. However, all are taken into account. So there is the opportunity to cancel your score. And so that's something that you can consider to do as well. But we will be reviewing all scores, each section that you send to us. So Shantanu, you submitted a waitlist essay round 1. You've been providing us updates over email every 15 to 20 days. Okay, I would say, you know, the updates, while yes, we love hearing from you guys, please also be mindful that we're a busy office. We're hearing from you guys a lot, and we want to receive updates from you that should be added to your application file, but also just be mindful of the extent that you're reaching out to our office. What I would guide you to do is definitely let us know your self-assessment action plan via the waitlist essay. Send us any associated documentation via email, updated scores, as you receive them, updated coursework to verify, please send us that. And yes, if you can consolidate, as much as you can consolidate those updates into one email, that would be preferred, yes. And then the word limit, you know, there's no word limit for email, but the word limit for the waitlist essay is 300 words. Zen, that's a great question. So you're an international student or international applicant, limited possibility to travel to DC. We still want you, of course, to feel connected to us and get access to better understand us directly. So the email, I know that I keep referencing Georgetown MBA. If you slightly manipulate that to Georgetown MBA visit at georgetown.edu, so Georgetown MBA visit at georgetown.edu. That is our student ambassador email. So we employ students to work in our admissions office who are there to help answer your questions. So feel free to send them an email in and say, this is my background, this is who I'm interested to speak to, can you help me? And I bet you one of them personally will be able to help you or connect you to a current student, possibly even an alumni. Isaac, are there any specific undergraduate courses besides accounting that McDonough would like applicants to have taken? It's a great question. So the whole point of us looking at your undergraduate transcript and specific coursework is seeing, you're right, what courses relate to the MBA program, which ones would be a helpful indicator in your success in our program. And of course, then on a macro level, we're looking at trends in your performance. Is your GPA rising along your academic years, et cetera. So accounting is definitely one, given it's your first course here with us. Statistics, I feel like, is also a very helpful skill that you will apply in our program. Financial accounting, so different types of accounting, managerial accounting, financial planning and analysis. I really think the best way to identify the specific courses is to look at the MBA curriculum itself and see which ones there match or are similar to what you did in undergrad or those that you're thinking about taking to strengthen your candidacy. And that curriculum is available on our website. We are coming up on time. We have so many questions. That's awesome. I'm so glad that you guys are excited to have this conversation. So I'm going to keep going. I want to thank you all for those that are here, that attended. I really sincerely appreciate your enthusiasm. I wish you the best of luck. So I'm going to keep going through questions, but I completely understand if folks need to sign off, given that we've hit time. Okay. Verbal, Akshay, we've talked about that question. Priyanka, That's a great question. If you get an offer of acceptance, but you're not able to secure the student visa, can you join the next academic year? That's a really good question. So that would be a conversation we'd have on a case-by-case basis. So if you should run into such issues as not being able to secure your student visa in time, certainly email our office so we can set up a conversation to talk about what your options may be. Yeah. Razak, right. The waitlist essay is not mandatory. It's meant to be an option available to you. However, I would say that, so you're on the waitlist for a reason or reasons, you know, based on the holistic review. If you do not submit the waitlist essay, or if you do not make changes to your profile, you could make changes to your profile, update us, and not submit the waitlist essay, as long as ultimately we know the changes to your merit, the changes to your candidacy, then we will incorporate those in our next round of decision notifications. The waitlist essay is just a formal mechanism for you to communicate to us what your plan and self-assessment is, but it is not a requirement. If you instead want to send us updated GMAT scores by email, that is totally fine to do. Okay. Yeah, so Syed has taken Coursera finance courses. How do we view non-credit courses? Yes, so coursework, any coursework that you have taken, especially from a credible, reputable institution or platform, I view Coursera to be that. We certainly will take that into account. I assume that you received a score or a grade, some kind of completion standing, we will certainly take that into account. It does not have to be only a credit course. Yeah, so for edX, Ani, we would like some kind of verification. It does not have to be a certificate. I believe you pay extra to receive a certificate, or it's free if you just want to take the course. We would just need verification that you took the course. I do still think you're being assessed, though, even if you're not taking the certificate. At least when I took edX courses, I received scores. So we would want the verification of your performance as well. Gabriella, I believe we talked about timeline already. Shantanu, yes. If there is supporting documentation that can accompany your waitlist essay, such as a certificate, screenshots, and such, yes, that could be sent to us via email to accompany. Ashwarya. Yes, so can I share an inspiring example of a student who was waitlisted and later offered admission? Can I also share why I chose to speak about that particular student? Sure. Yes, so a wonderful thing about working at admissions is we get to know you all. We get to hear your stories. We get to hear about your backgrounds, what motivates you, why you're driven to go to the MBA program, what you hope to achieve professionally. It can be very inspiring. And while I'm not going to tell you about a specific person, I will tell you I cannot even count the number of people I have personally offered coaching or group coaching to. And it is incredible to see what you all can accomplish in a short amount of time too, if you want to put your mind to it and if you're passionate. And it is extremely rewarding to see you be finally granted that admit decision and where you say it was all worth it. And even if you don't receive that admit decision, I know that may be disappointing. There are always next steps you can take, whether that is to submit a new application next year as a re-applicant, whether to say, you know what, but I achieved this GMAT score, that's the best I ever did. So that personal level of achievement as well. Yes, that's what I'll share with you. Okay. How much explaining do you want to hear about low quant test scores? Right, right. So Bennett, you're right that, you know, since we do work in a holistic review way, we should not fixate on just one. You know, your GMAT quant score is the only thing you feel like is a blemish on your application profile. And there are so many other things that we can review. I want to ensure you we are doing that. You would not be on the wait list if we were not still considering you as an applicant. So yes, while in your waitlist essay or your emails to us, you could explain maybe about your testing preferences or pointing us in different, highlighting different aspects of your application. We want you to put your strongest foot forward. So if that is highlighting, reiterating, pointing out certain other aspects of your application, as long as it helps to overcompensate that less competitive indicator. If you're telling us about this great work progression you've had, but it has nothing to do with your quantitative acumen, then those don't go hand in hand. While it's, you know, it's wonderful that you have experienced that professional success, it's really identifying what is less competitive and what will overcompensate, whether it is swapping that less competitive indicator with the same indicator, or thinking about what other measures could be applied to give us that confidence. Okay. Yeah, so Sarth, the waitlist essay should be via the application portal, not via email. The email is really meant for anything that you need to send us via with updates beyond your waitlist essay or to accompany your waitlist essay. But we would rather you use that portal submission box just because it automatically gets tied to your application. So Prakar, internet, yes. So we are. I appreciate that you recognize, you know, Georgetown being an international program. We pride ourselves on offering a truly global experience to our MBA students, and because of that, thankfully, we attract folks who are interested in working cross-culturally, you know, and working in a variety of locations across industries, et cetera. Very open-minded, diverse folks. And you're saying that you did not maybe explain the work that you've done as well as you maybe could have across different countries. Certainly you can share that with us. I will say that probably would not be the reason that you're on the wait list, because we have folks who do not have international experience. It's not a requirement for you. Instead, what we are seeking are individuals who work well with people who are different than themselves, who are looking forward to working in a collaborative, cross-cultural environment. So it's not a requirement. So I don't think that was that is what is keeping you back. But certainly, if you're especially if you're sending us an essay anyway, explaining about your self-assessment, you can also say, you know, and I just wanted to highlight because I didn't think I was clear enough about this international experience that I had, just to make sure that it's accounted for. Shantanu, how many candidates are currently on the wait list? Oh, I cannot tell you that. I'm sorry. Because it's in flux. We are always moving people around into different categories. So you're not formally notified until May 15th. It's a constantly moving process. Yes. Jacob, can I repeat the online courses that I said could help with quantitative skills? Yes. So I would look at the MBA curriculum and look at our quantitative coursework there that you'll be taking in the program, because then not only can you prepare yourself for the MBA program, but you can also strengthen your candidacy at the same time. So accounting is the first course that you take. I also think statistics is a very helpful course with applicable skills. And then the rest I would gather from the MBA curriculum. Oh, Rohan, that's great. You submitted your waitlist essay. Do you get any confirmation? You do not get a confirmation. However, if you submit it, it is submitted. Syed, the strong quantitative score on GMAT, I would look at our range and our cohort profile. So Amar, yep, MBA Math is a great opportunity to improve your quantitative ability. If you've taken that successfully, if there's a different course, well, you don't want to be redundant. So it depends on the courses you took with MBA Math. So you have to think about what would complement that coursework, what would enhance that coursework. And I would also say the same advice I just gave to another colleague, which is looking at the MBA curriculum and seeing what is the relevant coursework. So guys, I'm just gonna go for a few more minutes and then I'm gonna call it a day. Okay, so Syed, you were exempt from taking the English language exam for admissions. However, you took the test 2 years back and it is expired. Could you still provide it? So if it's expired, technically we can't review it. The same applies for the GMAT jury that has a 5-year expiration. IELTS is a 2-year expiration. So it's honestly not worth you submitting it just because since it's expired, we can't consider it. Gabriella, in terms of stating your goal, your career goal, or your goal for getting an MBA, if you feel as if that wasn't something that was stated clearly, certainly if you are planning to submit your waitlist essay or sending us an email, that is something that you could better clarify for us. Again, I don't think that would probably be the primary reason for not getting admitted, though it certainly could be a contributing factor. So it's certainly worth clarifying if you feel as if that's an area that you might not have initially. You're welcome, Colin. Liana, that's an interesting question. Is there a difference in the number of applicants accepted off the waitlist in round 3 versus round 4? Ultimately, each round, we are trying to admit as many people who are qualified and deserving, meaning that you've met our standards and our holistic review process. So we don't have a certain number that we're hoping to achieve or a certain percentile we're hoping to achieve to pull off the waitlist for round 3 and round 4. It's ultimately as you all are updating your candidacies, as you are strengthening your profiles, then we are considering you for a final decision. Priyanka, how many vacancies are there in the class of 2018? That's not necessarily a measure we're working against. So that's not the way that we're calculating our admissions offers. So that's not something that you should have to worry about. Okay. Do you value test scores over? Yeah, so Ani, we don't necessarily have a preference in whether you should retake a test versus taking coursework. It really depends on your individual candidacy and your own case and what would be most helpful for you. How close were those test scores to our cohort profile? Is it just one of the sections in the test, or is it across the board? Do you feel as if there is a good substitute in terms of coursework that could overcompensate? These are all considerations. How much weightage is given to the IR section of the GMAT? Great. So that is one of the components of the GMAT. We look across all components: verbal, analytical, writing, quantitative, and IR. So it is a section that we review as part of the GMAT. I would say if there was one section that we fixate on most, it would be the quantitative, just because of the quantitative rigor of our program, but we look across all of the sections. Okay, I am just going to answer a couple more. Buana, I have enrolled for a short course, won't be able to show milestones until May 15th. You should at minimum tell us your plan to take this short course, the duration of it, showing us maybe a screenshot of having enrolled in the course. Any progress that you can show us ahead of time, ahead of decision notification date, would be helpful. Okay, this will be my last question that I'm going to answer. Ani, a greater emphasis as opposed to taking a course that is related to the MBA curriculum. So Ani says, if I get a 700 from a 680, will that be given greater emphasis as opposed to taking a course that is related to the MBA curriculum? So a 20-point increase is an increase. You certainly should share that with us if you have not already. And it's not as if we put more emphasis or less on these different measures, because it is the holistic review process. So it depends on your performance within each of those sections. It depends on the rest of your application, your undergraduate academic performance, et cetera. So it's hard to be black and white. With that, you guys, I want to sincerely thank you for your time, for your interest, for your willingness to consider strengthening your candidacy. I'm rooting for you. We are here to support you. Let us know of any questions, send by email or call us. And I wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for coming today. Take care.